and welcome to Walker Tea Review. I'm Jason Walker here, as usual, to present a tea to taste, to explore. These are teas that have no added ingredients to them, so this is kind of the pure experience of the tea. I've got my spoon here, got a Japanese green tea. I'll start off by saying that, and a traditional Japanese style kyusu pot here. It's a Bankoyaki, I believe, is the type of the pot. I've reviewed this particular teapot, and I'm getting kind of liberal here with the tea leaves, but I want enough to kind of cover the bottom flat surface of my. I think this is about a 6 to 8 ounce. I don't recall at the moment. And again, it depends on how much tea you put in as well. This is what kind of water volume it will actually hold. So I've added my leaf there very gently. My water has been brought to a high level, very close to boil, but I've let the temperature drop some. And I'm going to pour in. I want it pretty strong. I want to let it steep kind of thoroughly. So that looks like a good amount. That's not the full teapot, but that looks like a good amount. And I'm going to set the lid on with kind of basic rules that might be helpful for you if you're using a Japanese teapot, steeping a Japanese tea. Oftentimes, to bring out some of a more traditional style steeping preparation method, you can wait until the water. You could actually pour boiling water into an additional vessel. Wait until that becomes cool to the touch, and that's depending on ranging somewhere around 185 to 165 probably. You can pour that into your pot here, and then you can kind of wait. Some will recommend maybe just 1 minute. Some people will recommend a little longer, a little shorter. So I'm going to let that steep and kind of draw out as much as possible within the time. So while that's happening, introduce this tea. This is from Aiya, America. Aiya's Premium Sencha. You can get 80-gram container like this currently for $23, just under $24, $23.80. Not a lot of background information as far as exact harvest location, harvest time in Japan there. So what we're going to go ahead and do is just kind of look at a little bit of this tea, talk about the dry leaf, the wet leaf, and the liquor. Starting off here with the dry. I want to give this a little shake, kind of let it activate a little bit, I guess you might say. Nice, sweet aromas, and again, this is sweet green vegetable, spinachy kind. You might detect a bit of a light, almost like a lemon zest aroma note in there. You might also detect some kind of mineral. Sea air, salty, minerally type component there. Think of I would say maybe some flinty type, maybe some sea air hitting the rocks, so it's releasing some of the minerals on the ocean rocks there. That's the kind of aroma that you can detect in the dry leaf here. Scooping out a little bit and looking at the dry leaf. Some larger filaments, I mean, in comparison to other teas, senchas that I've come across, filaments here can be quite longer, 1.5 inches, 2 inches in some cases. Of course, they range because this is very delicate. Some of them get much smaller. But looking down into this container, you see quite a bit of larger filaments that survive. These look to be portions of leaves. You don't get a lot of. You get very few of the lighter green, yellow, or yellow-green stem component or middle vein component, so that got filtered out fairly well, at least in this particular sample, so that looks good. I'm going to put the lid on to keep that fresh, and I'm going to get now to the pouring of my tea. I'm going to get my nice teapot with a useful handle. I've got my lid with the hole opening, and I want that up towards which would be away from the spout there. I'm just going to get me a more even pouring. If you tilt this up too much and the air hole that's down here at the bottom, you're more likely to have tea dribbling out the lid or the edge of the lid there. So I'm going to give this a little shake, get those last few drops out. That looks good. Set that to the side. Let me get this out of the way while I'm at it. And talk a little bit about this wet leaf here. Let me get a smell first. Aromas now moving because the leaves have loosened up and awakened. They're getting more buttery. They're getting more cream spinach, thicker, richer, denser smells, more savory smells. The buttery, again, buttery cream spinach. You still get a little bit of a mineral type, kind of almost like a salty type essence there. You still get some gentle, light sweetness there, some like sweet pea, flour type smells. But the richer, heavier, butterier smells are dominant here. Let me scoop out a little bit, and let me get a lid here. I want a white lid to kind of show these leaves a little bit more clearly. Let me pinch a little bit. That may be the best way. They are a wet mass or lump, so it's not easy to just pull out individual leaves. I'm going to try to rest as much as I can there. Wipe my fingers off here. You're going to see variations in size. You might be able to detect stem or vein pieces a little bit more easily because they're still straight, stick-like as compared to the wrapped pieces of leaves that were tightly twisted or wrapped. Now have opened up and flattened out. So you got more flat. You've got flatter pieces, and those flatter leaf portions are still a deep, rich green. Gravitating more towards a green-blue in color. So we still got some nice color. I steeped this quite a while, so these have opened up for the most part. They're nearly completely unfurled. If you are using briefer steepings, you may not necessarily unfurl all the leaves that quickly, which can be a positive note. You might want to try for starting off an initial steep of, say, cooler water, maybe 165. Try that. 1 minute or less of a steep time. Pour that off. Next time, don't heat your water. Let that, just use the warm water to add. Pour directly in, immediately pour out, or as soon as you can, and you may be able to draw more steeps out in that way. Let me get to this liquor now. Holding that up to the light, that is a deep, rich, and it's green, but it's more on the green-yellow end of the scale right now. But it's very thick. It's very cloudy. There's a lot of the tea, the element of the tea, still floating around in there, which usually means you're going to get some pretty rich broth. You're going to get some rich flavors in that as well. Rich, intense, again, still that buttery cream spinach type character really coming out. I steeped this quite a while. It wasn't the most extreme temperature to put on it, but having said that, again, thicker texture, lighter astringency. Still got some of the especially more towards the back, it's got a bit of the kind of astringent element that can come out with, some of your fukamushi type senchas, the more deep steamed. This one's got a bit of that. Not as much, again, not as much as some others, not as a pronounced zesty, astringent type bite to it. So this one's a bit smoother. So that means the aftertaste builds up a little bit more of a creamy, buttery sweetness that is not as not as much canceled out by astringency. So it's got a bit of a thicker feel. It gives it more weight and heft to the mouthfeel. It feels heavier on the top of the tongue. You're not going to, off-camera tastings, you're not going to be able to draw out a significant number of steepings from this. But again, you're not really doing that with a lot of your Japanese senchas. 2, 3 maybe steeps before it starts to really drop off. Looking at this particular tea, it's got some nice components. Like I said, a richer, thick feel. It's got a bit more subdued. As far as profile, not as diverse, but heft and weight, texture, mouthfeel, all those things are very well developed in this particular sencha. So looking at all that, I would probably give this one, I'm going to give this one a 91. Nice components. Again, something to note, depending on what kind of vessel you're steeping in, some vessels are more prone to bringing out the texture as opposed to the aroma or some other components. Some steeping vessels and what they are made of, the material can enhance some of those components or subdue some of those components as well. So that's something to consider. Come back to Walker Tea Review to find out about steeping vessels, about teas. Subscribe to the newsletter so you can get tea reviews like this delivered directly into your inbox. Subscribe to the member content so you can read more and find out more about everything from the teas, the vessels, the teaware, places of origin, and people in tea.